The unexpected declaration. Commander Zeth stood at the center of his command bridge, his massive frame casting long shadows across the metallic floor. His scarred face bore the marks of countless battles, and his forearms moved with practiced precision across the holographic displays. Behind him stretched the largest war fleet the Krillian Empire had ever assembled. 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. The bridge hummed with activity as his officers prepared for what they believed would be the easiest conquest in galactic history. Subcommander Yila approached, her own battle-worn features showing a mix of excitement and concern. "Commander, our scouts report that human space shows no military activity whatsoever," she said, her voice carrying through the bridge's communication system. "Their colonies continue their daily routines as if they don't know we're coming." Zeth's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a Krillian smile. For 1,000 years, these soft creatures had hidden behind their peace treaties while the rest of the galaxy fought and struggled. They had grown weak, comfortable, and naive. Today, that would cost them everything. "Perfect," Zeth rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "Send the ultimatum to all human colonies simultaneously. Let them know their 1,000 years of hiding are over." The communication officer activated the long-range transmitters. The message that had taken their war council months to craft now raced across space toward every human settlement, from the smallest mining outpost to Earth itself. On Earth, Director Sarah Chen sat in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The building that housed the Peaceful Relations Department was made mostly of glass and living wood, designed to make visitors feel comfortable rather than intimidated. Sarah had been reviewing reports on the latest interspecies cultural exchange programs when her assistant knocked on the door. "Sarah, we're receiving what appears to be a formal war declaration from the Krillian Empire," said Dr. Alina Vasquez, stepping into the office with a bemused expression on her face. Sarah looked up from her reports, blinking in surprise. She was a small woman with kind eyes and graying hair, someone who had spent her entire career helping different species understand each other. The concept of a war declaration seemed as foreign to her as breathing underwater. A war declaration. Are you sure they didn't mean a diplomatic protest? Sometimes the translation algorithms get confused with aggressive species. Alina shook her head, pulling up the message on her tablet. "No, this is definitely a declaration of war. They're demanding unconditional surrender of all human territories within 7 standard days. They seem quite serious about it, Sarah." Read through the message, her eyebrows rising higher with each threatening paragraph. When she finished, she set down the tablet and looked thoughtful. "How interesting," she said finally. "I wonder what prompted this. Have we accidentally offended them somehow? Alina, can you run a cultural analysis on their recent communications? There might be a misunderstanding we can clear up." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the message had reached the Aurora 7 research station orbiting a gas giant in the Kepler system. Captain Marcus Rivera, a practical man in his 50s, read the declaration while sipping his morning coffee. His chief engineer, Tommy Park, a young man barely out of university, looked over his shoulder. "Captain, should we be worried?" Tommy asked, his voice carrying a slight tremor. Marcus chuckled and patted the young man's shoulder. "Tommy, in my 40 years of space service, I've learned that most problems solve themselves if you approach them with an open mind and a good cup of coffee. Besides, look at this message. It reads like something out of an ancient history book. These folks might be stuck in the past." Back on the Krillian flagship, Commander Zeth waited for the terrified responses that never came. Instead, his communication officer looked increasingly confused as reports came in from across human space. "Sir, we're receiving responses, but they're not what we expected," the officer reported hesitantly. "Show me," Zeth commanded. The first response came from Earth's Peaceful Relations Department. Sarah Chen appeared on the screen, sitting behind her wooden desk with the ocean visible through the windows behind her. She looked genuinely puzzled rather than afraid. "Greetings, Commander Zeth and the Krillian Empire," she began warmly. "We received your message about declaring war, and I have to admit we're a bit confused. Our records show no previous diplomatic contact with your people, which seems like a missed opportunity for cultural exchange. Before we address your concerns, we'd love to learn more about your civilization. What prompted this declaration? Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding we can resolve through dialogue." Zeth stared at the screen in disbelief. This human was treating his war declaration like an invitation to a social gathering. His officers exchanged worried glances. The next response came from Aurora 7 Research Station. Captain Rivera appeared on screen, still holding his coffee mug. "Hello there, Krillian friends," he said cheerfully. "We got your message about the war business. Interesting approach to first contact, I'll give you that. We're a research station here, primarily studying gas giant atmospheric conditions. If you're interested in our work, you're welcome to visit. We have excellent coffee, and our atmospheric data might be useful for your navigation systems." Commander Zeth's forehands clenched into fists. What is wrong with these creatures? Do they not understand what a war declaration means? Sub-Commander Yila studied the responses with growing fascination. "Commander, perhaps their translation systems are malfunctioning. Or maybe they're employing some kind of psychological warfare technique we don't understand." More responses continued to pour in from across human space. A colony ship sent recipes for alien-friendly foods. A mining operation offered to share their efficiency reports. A trading post suggested the Krillians might be lost and offered updated star charts. Not a single human settlement showed fear, panic, or preparation for war. Instead, they all seemed genuinely interested in helping or learning about their would-be conquerors. War Chief Korvax, the most traditional of Zeth's advisors, slammed his fist on the tactical display. "This is clearly some kind of trap, Commander. They're trying to lull us into complacency before springing their hidden defenses." Scholar Nexus, the fleet's cultural analyst, had been quietly studying the human responses. She was younger than the other officers, with brighter scales that marked her as someone who spent more time with books than battles. "Commander, if I may offer an alternative theory," she said carefully. "What if they're not pretending? Our intelligence reports indicated that humans have maintained peace for 1,000 years. Perhaps they genuinely don't understand the concept of warfare anymore." The bridge fell silent at this suggestion. The idea that an entire species could forget how to make war seemed impossible to the battle-hardened Krillians. Commander Zeth made a decision that would change everything. "We advance to the first human colony. If they want to pretend they're not afraid, we'll give them a demonstration of Krillian power they won't forget." As the massive war fleet moved deeper into human space, the responses from human colonies became even more puzzling. Instead of evacuating or calling for help, the humans seemed to be preparing welcome committees. Reports came in of colonies preparing guest quarters and planning cultural exchange programs. On Earth, Sarah Chen convened an emergency meeting of the Peaceful Relations Department. The conference room was filled with xenobiologists, cultural specialists, and communication experts. Everyone, we have an unprecedented situation, Sarah began. The Krillian Empire has declared war on humanity, but their actions and our response seem to be creating some kind of communication breakdown. Dr. Vasquez, what have you learned about their culture? Alina pulled up her analysis on the room's main screen. The Krillians appear to be a warrior culture that values strength, conquest, and territorial expansion. They've been involved in conflicts with at least 12 other species in the past century. However, their current action seems unusual even for them. How so? Asked Dr. James Wright, the department's psychology specialist. Well, typically, warrior cultures attack without warning to maintain the element of surprise. The fact that they gave us 7 days' notice suggests they either want us to surrender without a fight, or they're following some kind of honor code we don't understand. Yet, Sarah nodded thoughtfully. What if we approach this as a first contact situation rather than a military threat? Maybe they're using warfare as their primary method of establishing diplomatic relations. The room erupted in discussion as the specialists considered this possibility. It seemed incredible, but it was the only explanation that made sense of the Krillians' behavior. Meanwhile, on the Krillian flagship, Commander Zeth was experiencing his own moment of doubt. The human responses had continued to pour in throughout the day, and each one was more bewildering than the last. A human university had offered to establish a student exchange program. A group of human artists wanted to collaborate on sculptures celebrating Krillian culture. A retirement home had invited Krillian elders to share their battle stories. Sub-Commander Yila, Zeth said quietly, in all your years of warfare, have you ever encountered an enemy that responded to a war declaration with dinner invitations? Yila's scarred face showed her own confusion. No, Commander, never. This is either the most sophisticated deception in galactic history, or these humans are genuinely the most peaceful species we've ever encountered. As the day wore on and the responses continued, even the most traditional Krillian officers began to question their assumptions about human nature. The creatures they had expected to terrorize were instead trying to befriend them, help them, and understand them. Commander Zeth stood alone on his observation deck, looking out at the stars ahead. Tomorrow, his fleet would reach the first human colony. He had come here expecting an easy conquest, but now he wondered if he was about to make the biggest mistake of his military career. The humans' gentle responses had done something no enemy weapon ever could. They had made him question everything. He thought he knew about strength, power, and the nature of victory itself. The power of understanding. The Aurora 7 research station hung peacefully in the void, its gentle blue lights reflecting off the gas giant's swirling clouds below. Captain Marcus Rivera watched through his observation windows as the Krillian war fleet emerged from hyperspace. 300 massive ships, their hulls bristling with weapons that could reduce planets to asteroids, now surrounded his small research facility. Tommy, are our guests in position? Marcus asked his chief engineer over the intercom. Tommy Park's voice crackled back with barely contained excitement. Yes, sir, Captain. The defensive grid is online, and I've prepared the usual hospitality protocols. Should I activate the welcome beacon? Marcus smiled and pressed the communication button. Aurora 7 to Krillian Fleet. This is Captain Rivera. Welcome to our little corner of space. We have guest docking bays prepared if any of your people would like to come aboard for coffee and cultural exchange. On the Krillian flagship, Commander Zeth stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. His scanners showed that the human research station had no weapons, no military vessels, and a crew of only 47 people. Yet they were broadcasting welcome messages as if this were a peaceful diplomatic mission. "Commander," War Chief growled, his massive frame trembling with frustration. "These creatures mock us with their false bravery. Let us demonstrate the price of defying the Krillian Empire." Scholar Nexus studied her cultural analysis screens with growing fascination. "Commander, I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the station. They appear to have some kind of defensive system, but it's unlike anything in our military databases." Commander Zeth made his decision. "All ships, prepare for demonstration. Bombardment, target the station's outer hull only. We want to disable, not destroy. Perhaps a show of force will help these humans understand their situation." The order rippled through the fleet. 50 of the largest warships turned their main weapons toward Aurora 7. Each weapon could punch through a battleship's armor like paper. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon on Aurora 7. Alarms began to sound, but not the harsh warning klaxons of military vessels. Instead, gentle chimes echoed through the corridors, and Tommy's voice came over the intercom with excitement rather than fear. "Attention all personnel. Our guests appear to be conducting some kind of weapons demonstration. Please move to the central areas while our defensive systems handle this. Dr. Vasquez to the bridge, please. We might need a xenocultural specialist. For this one." Captain Rivera turned to Tommy with genuine curiosity. "What exactly did you install in our defensive grid, young man? The specifications you gave me were rather vague." Tommy grinned, his eyes bright with the enthusiasm of youth. "Well, Captain, during my studies on Earth, I became fascinated with how our ancestors solved the problem of warfare. They didn't try to build better weapons, they built better defenses. Our grid doesn't destroy incoming fire. It does something much more interesting." Before Rivera could ask what that meant, the Krillian fleet opened fire. 50 beams of devastating energy lanced through space toward the research station. Each beam carried enough power to level a city, and they struck Aurora 7's defensive field simultaneously. What happened next defied everything the Krillians thought they knew about warfare. The energy beams didn't explode against shields or armor. Instead, they simply vanished, absorbed into a shimmering field that surrounded the station like a soap bubble made of starlight. "Where did our weapons fire go?" Zeth demanded of his science officer. "Unknown, Commander. The energy appears to have been completely absorbed by their defensive field, but I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout their station's grid." On Aurora 7, Tommy was practically bouncing with excitement. "Perfect. Captain, our defensive grid just absorbed enough energy to power the station for 6 months. The Krillians just gave us a fantastic gift." Dr. Elena Vasquez arrived on the bridge, having been monitoring the situation from her xenobiology lab. "Marcus, I think I understand what's happening here. The Krillians are trying to establish dominance through a show of force. It's probably how they normally begin diplomatic relations with other species." Captain Rivera nodded and opened a communication channel to the Krillian fleet. "Commander Zeth, thank you for the energy donation. Our power systems are running much more efficiently now. However, I'm concerned that your weapons might be malfunctioning. Would you like our engineering team to take a look? We have some excellent diagnostic equipment." The bridge of the Krillian flagship fell into stunned silence. Commander Zeth's 4 hands gripped his command chair as he tried to process what had just happened. His most powerful weapons, had not only failed to damage the human station, they had somehow helped it. "Fire again," he ordered quietly. "Full power." This time, the entire fleet opened fire. 300 warships unleashed their combined might against the small research station. The space around Aurora 7 lit up like a newborn star as enough destructive energy to crack a continent struck the defensive field. Again, every beam simply vanished into the shimmering barrier. But this time, something unexpected happened. The absorbed energy began to flow back out of the grid in gentle waves, forming beautiful patterns of light that danced across the gas giant's atmosphere below. Tommy was now openly laughing with delight. "Captain, they just gave us enough power to run Earth's eastern seaboard for a year. Our grid is converting their weapons fire into a light show. The atmospheric data we're getting from this energy interaction is incredible." Sub-Commander Yila turned to her commander with growing alarm. "Sir, our weapons are having no effect whatsoever. Worse, the humans seem to be benefiting from our attacks." Scholar Nexus looked up from her analysis with wonder in her eyes. "Commander, I think I understand now. These humans haven't forgotten how to wage war. They've evolved beyond it. Their defensive technology doesn't destroy attacks. It transforms them into something useful." Commander Zeth stood up slowly, his mind reeling from the implications. In all his years of warfare, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans had taken the fundamental principle of conflict, the application of destructive force, and rendered it not just useless, but beneficial to their targets. At that moment, his tactical officer's voice cut through his thoughts. "Commander, we have a problem. 3 of our ships are showing critical system failures. Their weapons have overloaded from continuous firing." Captain Rivera's voice came over the communication channel again, this time with genuine concern. "Fleet, we're detecting power failures on several of your vessels. We're sending our maintenance ships to assist. Please don't be alarmed by their approach. They're only equipped with repair tools and medical supplies." Before Zeth could respond, small human ships began emerging from Aurora 7's docking bays. They were tiny compared to the Krillian warships, looking more like flying workshops than military vessels. Each one carried the same peaceful blue lights as the research station. Warchief Korvax's voice boomed across the bridge. "Commander, this is clearly a trap. These repair ships must be carrying weapons designed to look harmless." But Scholar Nexus was studying the approaching human vessels with amazement. "No, Warchief. My scans show they really are carrying repair equipment, medical supplies, and what appears to be food and water. They're mounting a rescue operation. The first human maintenance ship reached a disabled Krillian vessel and began carefully docking with its emergency airlocks. Within minutes, the Krillian ship's lights flickered back to life, and its environmental systems stabilized." Captain Rivera's voice came over the channel again. "Commander Zeth, our teams report that your people are suffering from severe stress and nutritional deficiencies. When was the last time your crew had proper rest and medical care? We'd like to help if you'll let us." For the first time in his military career, Commander Zeth found himself speechless. These humans had just survived the most devastating attack his fleet could deliver, and their response was to send medical aid to their attackers. Dr. Vasquez's voice joined the conversation from Aurora 7. "Commander, I'm a xenobiologist specializing in interspecies relations. I've been studying the cultural data we have on your people, and I'm noticing some concerning patterns. Your empire has been at war continuously for over 3 centuries. That level of constant conflict takes a severe toll on any species, both physically and psychologically. Sub-Commander Yila leaned over to Zeth and whispered urgently, "Commander, perhaps we should listen to what she has to say. Our people are exhausted from endless wars. Our home worlds are dying from the resources we've spent on conquest. What if these humans could offer us something we never knew we needed?" Zeth looked around his bridge at his officers. These were warriors who had fought beside him for decades, creatures who had never shown weakness or doubt in battle. But now he saw something in their eyes that chilled him: hope. Hope for an end to the endless cycle of violence that had defined their civilization. "Dr. Vasquez," Zeth said slowly, "what do you propose?" Her voice came back warm and encouraging. "Why don't you come aboard Aurora 7? Bring a small delegation. Let's talk face to face, as civilized beings should. We have a lot we could learn from each other." An hour later, Commander Zeth found himself sitting in Aurora 7's comfortable conference room, surrounded by humans who treated him not as a conquered enemy, but as an honored guest. The room was filled with living plants and soft lighting, designed to put visitors at ease. Captain Rivera sat across from him, with Dr. Vasquez and Tommy Park flanking him. The young engineer was practically vibrating with excitement as he explained their defensive technology. "You see, Commander, our ancestors realized that the key to lasting peace wasn't building better weapons, it was making weapons obsolete. Our defensive grids don't just protect us, they transform aggressive energy into something beneficial. Your attack just provided clean power to 3 solar systems." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward with genuine interest. "Commander, we've studied your empire's history. You've conquered dozens of worlds, but what has it gained you? Your people are exhausted, your resources depleted, and your enemies multiply with each victory. What if there was a better way?" Zeth looked at these strange, peaceful creatures and felt something crack inside his hardened warrior's heart. "Dr. Vasquez, for 3 centuries, my people have known only war. We fight because we believe strength is the only thing that matters in this universe. But you have shown me something today that challenges everything I thought I knew about power." "Captain," Rivera smiled and poured Zeth a cup of coffee from a pot that had been brewing throughout their conversation. "Commander, true strength isn't the ability to destroy your enemies. It's the ability to turn enemies into friends. We've had 1,000 years to perfect that skill." As Zeth sipped the strange human beverage and felt its warmth spread through his body, he realized that this small research station had accomplished something his entire war fleet could not. They had won a victory without firing a shot, conquered without destroying, and shown strength through kindness. The war that had begun with ultimatums and threats was ending with coffee and conversation. And for the first time in his life, Commander Zeth wondered if perhaps the humans had discovered the greatest weapon of all, the power to heal rather than harm, to build rather than destroy, and to find strength in peace rather than conflict. The gentle revolution had begun, not with weapons or warfare, but with understanding, compassion, and the simple human belief that every conflict could be resolved with patience, kindness, and really good coffee. Asterisk.